My friends, this is Dr. B, the best doctor in medicine. 30 plus years of clinical high-level experience in medicine. Today, Dr. B wants to tell you, explain to you in easy ways, why is it that we age? Why is it that I age? Why is it that you're aging? Why is it that your dog is aging? Why is it that your cat is aging? Why is it that oxygen breathing creatures age and eventually die? It's a very, very important issue, isn't it? Right? Unlike what people say, aging is not a normal process. Aging is a disease. It's a pathology. It's an abnormality that occurs naturally, but it is not a condition that is something that is like health, right? It's not, it's natural, but it's a disease, right? And I'm going to explain to you in simple ways why is it that I'm aging, why is it that you're aging. So pay very careful attention. Let's limit this discussion to humans to make it easy, but the process is the same. Whether it's a cat, a dog, a bird, blah, 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 right? It's the same process, but let's limit ourselves to humans. Think about it. You see your body, my body. The human body is made of organs. The brain, the eyes, the liver, the kidney, the heart, the lungs, the stomach, blah, blah, blah. The skin is the largest organ of our body, right? All these organs come together to form different systems. The respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, right? Blah, blah, blah. The locomotor system, right? The muscles and the bone, right? The skin is the largest organ of our body. So all these organs, right? Whichever you take, whether it's the liver, the heart, the brain, the kidneys, the stomach, if you cut them into little pieces and you look under a microscope, right? You're going to see that each organ is made of billions of cells, tiny, tiny little cells, microscopic little cells. Like the bricks are what make a house, right? These little bricks come together, right? You can make a house, right? Or a tiny Lego cubes, right? You take all these Legos, together you can make a car, you can make a big beautiful toy, right? So by putting these tiny microscopic cells together, evolution, nature has created these organs, like the liver, the heart, the brain, right? So these tiny little cells are the building blocks of our organs, the same way the bricks of the house are the building blocks that make this house, even though houses can be made of concrete and wood and blah, blah, but you get the point. So in an average human body, there are about 37 trillion, not billion, not million, but trillion cells. It gives you an impressive number, right? And it gives you an idea about how massive is this number. We have in an average adult human body, not child, right? Adult human body, 37 trillion tiny little microscopic cells that put together form organs, and together put together all these organs form the body, right? But it is important to understand that these 37 trillion cells, they have a certain lifespan. They don't live forever. They have to be replaced. Let me give you the first example. Our red blood cells, these cells in our blood that make your blood red, right? That carry oxygen to all your organs so that you can be alive, right? This oxygen is carried by your red blood cells, tiny microscopic red blood cells, billions of them, to your organs. Each red blood cells has an average life expectancy of about 120 days, which is about 4 months. After these 120 days, these red blood cells, they die, they have done their job, and they have to be replaced by new, beautiful red blood cells, right? Where do these new, beautiful red blood cells come so that they can replace the old red blood cells that have done their job and have died? They come from these beautiful stem cells that you have in your bone marrow. Inside your bone marrow, there are billions of tiny microscopic stem cells that always divide, right, to replace these old blood cells with new blood cells, right? Example number 2, your skin. Every day your skin sheds its old skin cells, right? Right? The old skin cells that are old, they die and they fall off, they shed, right? Like the skin of a lizard, like the skin of a snake, right? The old cells, the old skin sheds, a new skin comes, right? So, at the basal layer, at the bottom layer of your skin that we call the basal layer, there are beautiful stem cells whose function is to constantly divide and create new beautiful cells so that you can have constantly a normal new beautiful skin, right? Last example. In your intestine, your stomach, your small intestine and your large intestine, your colon, inside the lumen, right, inside the cavity, there's a layer full of cells that are responsible for digestion and absorption of the nutrients in your food, right? These cells have also a certain lifespan, which is about 10 days to 2 weeks. After that, they shed inside your gut and they have to be replaced by new beautiful cells so that these new beautiful cells can also keep going with this function of digestion and absorption of the nutrients, right? Now, so inside that layer, inside your gut, there are stem cells. Same thing in your liver. Stem cells are everywhere, right? In every organs you have stem cells that are responsible for dividing and creating new beautiful cells so that your liver can keep going and do its job, your skin can keep going, do its job, your intestine can keep absorbing the food and blah, 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 right? So think about this. In order for us to not age, these stem cells should be able to replace constantly for the eternity all these old cells that have died and replace them with new beautiful cells, right? The skin, my skin is shedding all the time because the old cells, they die and they have to be replaced by new beautiful cells that come from the stem cells at the base or the bottom layer of my skin, right? Now, in order, again, to live healthy and young forever, these stem cells should be able to do their job of replacing, dividing constantly, and replacing these old cells for the eternity, right? But the problem is that as time passes, the DNA that makes up the genes of these beautiful stem cells undergoes damage as time passes, right? The DNA that makes the genes, you know that we have genes in every one of our cells, right? an average human being has about 49,000 and 100 something genes. So in each of our cells in the nucleus, we have 49,000 genes, right? And genes are made of DNA. So over time, as time passes, the DNA of these beautiful stem cells, whose job is to replace our old cells with new beautiful cells, their DNA undergoes damage. As time passes, more and more and more and more damage accumulates in the DNA of their genes, and therefore these beautiful stem cells they can no longer do their job because they become dysfunctional. They become damaged. When the genes of these beautiful stem cells undergo damage in their DNA, these stem cells can no longer function normally and do their beautiful job. It's like your engine. If the engine of your car undergoes damage over time, then eventually your car's gonna break down. You can no longer drive with that car. Same thing for these beautiful stem cells. Over time, the DNA of their genes undergoes damage, and as this damage accumulates in more and more genes, these stem cells become dysfunctional and can no longer replicate and replace your skin, the old cells that have died, with new beautiful skin cells. Same thing for your intestine, your liver, your heart, your everything, all these organs undergo aging because these old cells can no longer be replaced by new beautiful cells, because these stem cells that are responsible for that, their DNA has undergone accumulation of damage over time. Therefore, their genes become dysfunctional, the cells become dysfunctional. And the stem cells themselves, they accumulate so much damage, they die. So over time, as we age, we have less and less stem cells because they accumulate damage and they die. And those that are still surviving, they are not able to divide and make beautiful new cells, right? Now that you understand why is it that we age, your next question is, okay, I understand now, Dr. B, that our body, 37 trillion cells, have a certain life expectancy. They die and they have to be replaced constantly with new beautiful cells, and that is done by these stem cells. And over time, these stem cells, because they accumulate damage in their DNA, these stem cells become dysfunctional and can no longer replace the old dead cells by new beautiful cells. So your question is, what causes this damage in the DNA of the genes of these stem cells? Where does this damage come from? Very good question, right? Where does this DNA damage of these beautiful stem cells that we have, where does it come from? Number one reason why the stem cell DNA undergoes damage is from the oxygen that we breathe. This beautiful oxygen that we need to survive, right? This oxygen, one of the major problems with this oxygen that we need is that when it goes into our cells, it creates oxidizers. It creates oxidizing agents, powerful oxidizer that cause oxidation of that DNA, right? So think about this. Evolution made our body such that we need oxygen. We need oxygen. Without oxygen, we would die, right? But one of the major flaws in the design is that the oxygen that we breathe, even though we need it, inside our cells, especially the stem cells, this oxygen creates oxidizing agents. It creates oxidizers, also called oxidants, right? And these oxidants cause oxidation of this DNA. That is the DNA damage. Have you heard about oxidants, right? They tell you always to eat antioxidants. Make sure you eat a lot of antioxidants. Well, it is to fight these oxidants that come from the oxygen that we breathe. So think about this. Oxygen on one side gives us the ability to live because we need oxygen. I posted a video about why is it that we need oxygen? Why is it that without oxygen we die? But this oxygen that is necessary for our survival, on the other side, it creates massive amount of oxidants. Oxidants in every one of our cells, especially in our stem cells. And these oxidants, they damage, they oxidize the DNA of these stem cells, and they cause DNA damage. Do you see that? So we cannot live without oxygen, but the problem is that oxygen also causes this DNA damage in our stem cells. It causes oxidation. Now, although you eat a lot of antioxidants, and although Mother Nature evolution has given each of our 37 trillion cells, especially our stem cells, the ability to fight these oxidants via the production of natural glutathione, all these antioxidants you eat in your diet and all the glutathione that is produced in our cells, by our cells, especially the stem cells, to fight these oxidants that are produced by oxygen, it is just not enough. The system is overwhelmed by this massive amount of oxidants produced by this oxygen that we breathe. It is estimated that in each one of these 37 trillion cells, every hour there are 1 billion oxidants that are produced by this oxygen that we breathe. So think about it. Every single one of our 30 trillion cells, this oxygen that goes in them so that we can live, this oxygen creates 1 billion oxidants. We call them reactive oxygen species, also called free radicals. But forget about these medical terms, biochemical terms. Just remember that oxygen that you breathe creates oxidants. And this oxidants causes oxidation. The same way when that bridge under the breeze from the ocean, if you don't coat that bridge, right, the breeze from the ocean is going to rust that bridge, the iron, the metal, because the metal becomes oxidized. Same thing happens to your DNA. I don't want to go into details of the biochemistry, but that the DNA undergoes damage. And even though the antioxidants that you eat and the natural antioxidants called glutathione is produced by your own cells, to fight these oxidants created by oxygen that you breathe, it is just not enough. The system is overwhelmed. And over time, more and more DNA damage accumulates, accumulates in the DNA, in the genes. The genes are made of DNA, right? In the genes of your stem cells, which are made of DNA, and your stem cells become dysfunctional. They become dysfunctional. A lot of them die over time because of accumulation of DNA damage. And those who can survive, they are no longer able to replicate fast enough to produce beautiful cells and healthy cells for you to live forever. That's why when you look at the skin of an older person, and as we age, our skin becomes thinner. Right? Have you noticed how your skin, as we age, take a look at the skin of an 80-year-old compared to the skin of a 20-year-old. The skin is very thin, very brittle, right? Because the stem cells at the basal layers have all died because of this accumulation of DNA damage. And those few stem cells that are left, they are dysfunctional. They can no longer divide fast to replace these billions of cells that we shed every day with new cells. Yet, it is a big flaw in the design of our beautiful body. Think about this beautiful body that we have, which is the result of 4.5 billion years of evolution on Earth. It's a majestic machine. It's a majestic body, right? It is such an amazingly designed system, right? Unfortunately, it has a lot of major flaws. And one of the major flaws in the design of our body is that this oxygen that we breathe, and because we need oxygen to live, this oxygen, at the same time that it is necessary for life, this oxygen in every one of our 37 trillion cells, especially those stem cells, creates massive DNA damage that accumulates over time. And although you eat a lot of antioxidants in your diet, and although your cells have this natural fighting mechanism called glutathione, which is one of the most powerful antioxidants on earth, despite all that, the system is overwhelmed. And as time passes, more and more DNA damage accumulates in the genes of your beautiful stem cells. They die over time because of that, and those who survive and are not dead, they become dysfunctional over time. And that's one of the big flaws in the design of our body. It is this oxygen that we need to breathe to survive. Necessary for life, this oxygen, but very, very damaging to the DNA of the genes of our stem cells because of the creation. Oxygen creates these nasty oxidizers, also called oxidants, also called oxidizing agents, right? In medicine, in biochemistry, we call them free radicals. These oxidants, we call them free radicals. We call them reactive oxygen species, ROS. But don't remember this term. Just remember that the oxygen that you breathe because you need it, right? At the same time that you need it, it causes the formation of 1 billion every hour, 1 billion oxidants in each and every one of your 37 trillion cells, especially those stem cells that are responsible to replace the old dead cells with new cells. And that's why your skin becomes brittle and thin over time. Same thing happens in the lining of your intestine. Same thing happens in your liver, in your heart, in your bones, right? The bones, the cells, the osteoblasts of your bones are no longer able to create new bone tissue, and your bones become brittle. You develop osteoporosis, blah, 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 and blah, 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 right? This is the foundation. Obviously, there are a few other reasons together that come with what I explained to you, but the number one reason, by far, reason why we age is this accumulation of DNA damage in the cells of our beautiful stem cells, and this DNA damage comes from the oxidation caused by these oxidants that are generated from this beautiful oxygen that we breathe because we need it. Isn't that crazy? It's like you need it, but at the same time, it's slowly over time killing you. You cannot not breathe oxygen because you're going to die after. Your brain is going to die after 3 minutes. If there's not oxygen, no oxygen reaches your brain cells die after 3 minutes. Isn't that crazy? Your heart cells, your cardiomyocytes, they die after 10 minutes of lack of oxygen. Isn't that crazy? So we need oxygen, because without oxygen we die. But unfortunately, this oxygen that we need also over time also create massive amount of oxidants, which over time cause more and more and more accumulation of DNA damage that becomes oxidized. I posted a video to explain to you in simple ways why is it that we need oxygen, right? Look at that video. But now at least you understand why is it that we don't live forever. We could live forever if there was no DNA damage into those stem cells whose function is to replace the old cells that have died. If there was a way to not have any DNA damage into these stem cells, those stem cells that we have would be able to forever, for the eternity, to replace these old cells that have died, right? And then by new cells with new cells. So I would be able to live forever because my old cells would be quickly replaced by stem cells for the rest of the eternities. But unfortunately, these stem cells undergo DNA damage because of oxidations, and over time they die and they become dysfunctional. That's the number one reason why we age. Obviously, there are a few other, but they are less important. At least you know the number one reason why we age. Watch that video that I posted regarding why is it that we need oxygen. We breathe oxygen. Why? Why do we need oxygen? Why is it that if we don't breathe oxygen, we die? Guys, Dr. B graduated from medical school 30 plus years ago. I took the Hippocratic Oath to put your benefit before mine, to never lie to you, to never BS you, to not sell you any BS, to never tell you my opinion. Everything that I tell you is the scientific evidence, the proof, the scientific proof. Medicine is a science. I will never ever tell you anything that has not been proven by the scientific medical evidence. I love you guys regardless of your gender, ethnicity, race, politics, religion, whether you're a male, female, anything in between, Buddhist, Hinduist, atheist, religious, not religious, Christian, Jew. I don't give a cat, so Muslim, I don't give a cat, so I love you. And I give you a big hug. Put your comments, your question down there. I will get back to you as soon as I have the time in my busy but very happy life. And God willing, I talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.